program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into this very exciting episode of Real Biz. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and I'm pleased to bring in my friend, author, and facilitator, Frank Ziede. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. That was an awesome intro. Like, I love that concept of supporting art because I'm a big fan of art.
Yeah, well, and that's where this all grew from, is just being someone who not only produces their own, but admires other artists. And it was so important to me in this changing digital age of media to build a platform that was all about just supporting the creators and not necessarily elevating one above the next. I've interviewed Grammy nominees, and one of the first 20 interviews I did, Frank, was with Bill Payne, who founded the band Little Feat.
Wow.
Right? He played with everyone, and I'm going like, how am I on this phone call? And he kind of said that to me, where he's like, look, Bubba, you're one of us, man. Like, you're a musician, you're an artist. And I think, coming from someone that played with Seeger and Jackson Browne and did a record with Barbra Streisand that he doesn't remember, where you're like, okay, yeah, we're just like, if you're an artist, you're kind of swimming in the same pool and a lot of the same things. Some of us achieve a different, circles that we run in, but it's all the same. And I think I've tried to bring that little bit of, kind of confidence that he gave me in that conversation to everyone that I talk to. Right. Yeah. People that are just starting out will put me on a little bit of a pedestal, like, and it's like, I'm literally, I have 19 listeners on Spotify, right? Like, I don't, not anything as a musician, but, the podcast continues to grow and to become something that we hope lasts the test of time, right? Or last, 30 or 40 years, and it would make it a little longer than MTV did.
True.
Well, Frank, we're not going to talk about me today. We'll converse a little bit back and forth, but I'd love to give you the floor here and have you give us a little bit of your backstory. I know you come from the auto industry and you've been a facilitator, in corporate America, but you have a lot of other varied interests. I know you're working on a book, so give us a little bit of the backstory and we'll kind of pick it up from there.
Well, anytime I do a podcast, I talk to the audience who's actually listening in their ear pods, and I say, thanks for listening. This is some of your time that you're actually setting aside to figure out what this conversation is about. So my name is Frank Ziede. I'm also known as FTZ, my initials. This is my life in the background here. I'm a diehard Laker fan. I love movies. My favorite movie is Heat. I'm addicted to Dr. Pepper. But my work industry, because I know this is about biz, I started as a corporate trainer and facilitator about 25 years ago. And if you don't know what that means, if you ever come to a corporate event for a manufacturer or a company and they're running quote unquote training, I do the training. And I heard from a buddy of mine on another podcast, he says, you hope that you provide the best mandatory training that they've ever been in. And so that's what I try to do. I try to make it engaging and exciting. But from a creative standpoint, my life was all about creativity. My family were all singers and performers and artists. So I grew up as a kid doing freehand art, sketching, sculpting, watercolor, pencil, stippling, all the different sort of visual art mediums. And then I did musicals as a kid. So I was a singer, and then I became a professional dancer and choreographer, dancing with Celine Dion in the 1999 Billboard Music Awards. Insert clip here. I did a music video with Genuine for a song called None of Your Friends' Business. I did a song with Usher where I performed as a dancer called Pop Your Collar. So dance was also a big part of it. And the main vein of that also is just music. And I know that music is your world and what you do. I think music is a universal language. I think it's like oxygen for me. And I still use it every single day in my training. There's no way I can run a course, a workshop, or a class without having good music to be the intro and outro for different modules, to change the music to a specific type of music to use during intellectual activities where they need to think. So we change the beats per minute. We change it to there's no vocals in the background, right? So it's a sort of ethereal acoustic music that helps their brain engage, but then we amp it up during the sort of large participatory activities that we do, so that their beats per minute, their blood pressure goes up and their engagement goes up. So yeah, the arts and creativity, I think, is something that I wouldn't be able to live without, if that can sum up that conversation as best as possible.
And exactly why I started this show, because there are so many overlaps of creative processes and music and the arts and business. And I think you are a true embodiment of how those come together, right? You come from, your early, probably like another life, I'm sure it would feel like now, right? Being
Yeah.
a choreographer and dancer in the 90s to what you're doing now, but realizing that the music and it infuses and it invigorates in those spaces that could otherwise just be a total slog and super boring.
And I meet people all the time and they're like, well, I'm not creative. And I think of a quote from a guy named Seth Godin, who's been in the Marketing Hall of Fame. And he, in a book he wrote called Purple Cow, he's like, that's not how that works. You're not born with some sort of creativity. And some people have a natural affliction for creativity, right? They've got this thing they can't stop getting out of them. But I've found that creativity is something you have to work at. There's always a muse moment. There's always something where you get inspired, but that's only 10% of what you're doing. The other 90% is the hard work. If you want to be an artist, you have to draw more. I know a guy here in Chicago, and he posts a drawing every day. So for the last 3 years, he committed to himself to draw something every day. So he has a book that every day he draws something. And you can see the progression of his work. It's gotten better and better and better. If you're a screenwriter, I've done films as a director and producer. So we've been in the Los Angeles Short Film Festival and the New York Film Festival for shorts and all these different things. So I mean, my short form is like anywhere from 7 to 15 minutes of a movie, but I've had to write 50 scripts and constantly write. So you have to write something every day if you want to be a writer. I would assume then, because I'm not a songwriter, I'm not a musician. That's my sister. She's a singer. But I would assume then that you have to do the same thing. As a musician, you have to create every day and keep perfecting your craft. And I think that you look at someone and you're like, wow, they're amazing. They're just so talented. And I was like, they've got some talent, but what you're seeing there is probably what seems effortless is 25, 30 years of them working themselves to the bone to perfect that so it seems effortless.
Yeah, the tens of thousands of hours, right? Not just 10. It takes 10,000 hours, I think, maybe to like just be good at an instrument, the guitar especially, because it can be so varied. I was very lucky to grow up in a musical family myself, so I think a lot of that creativity just kind of becomes inherent, not different than you. When you're surrounded by it all the time, it infuses your life. Like you can't help but be a little creative. My kids probably get a little bit of that from me. We push them to read a lot. So then they're always writing stories. My daughter's writing songs. She's 9, right? I wasn't writing songs at 9 years old. I still can't draw. I don't have that, but I have a talent for being able to convey feelings.
But
right?
I give you mad props that you're encouraging it, because there is a connection between creativity and curiosity and how it's taught out of people. You tell kids, stop asking so many questions, but that also like limits their creativity. So you as a parent who are like pushing them and encouraging them, I think of my grandmother who was the artist painting, but at the same time she could play piano and everything. And she sat me down one day to try to teach me how to read sheet music. And she got in about 5-7 minutes in, and I was there, and I can do, it's, what's the thing when you've got an ear and you can hear a pitch and you can hit a tone. It's not perfect pitch, but there's something where like you acoustically, you can hear a note and you can replicate that note. I can sort of do that. So she was like, well, let me teach you how to read music. After 7 minutes or so of doing this, my middle name is Tyrone. I would go by Ty when I was a kid. She puts her arm around me and she was like, grandson, you're probably never going to learn how to read music. I tried, and I was fingers on the keys, and I was like, it's not for me. It's not for me, But I think there are people like they break through that moment and they keep working on the craft of creativity. And I think that's what separates the good from the great. So.
Yeah, I've never been able to read music, which sounds wild for someone who's been doing it for, 30 years. I've been playing music or, singing since I could talk, essentially. But it's always been just I've been able to match a tone, right? I'm a really good parrot. I know how to match a tone. If you show me how to do something, I got a steel trap of a memory to memorize that. But even playing, so I played drums in like concert band growing up, and just being able to do that, but just being able to like make it sound like I heard it sound. They're doing these things, and I don't necessarily have to have someone even show me that. I can match that. But yeah, you put a piece of sheet music in front of me, right? I think there's an old joke about guitar player to shut up and put a piece of sheet music in front of them, something of that nature. It works.
That's good.
No, so you talked about your your history with writing and directing and you're facilitating. How does that kind of, and even the choreography where you're really a director, right, of a different type, a different kind, that how does that go into your business side? I mean, because you're writing and directing these training seminars, and instead of trying to make it so that they learned this, you also have to make it entertaining so that it actually sticks, not just that they're going to be able to get through it, but that they'll actually retain what you're trying to teach them.
Well, I think you said this earlier before we started recording, edutainment. So it's this conversation of trying to engage people in a fun way that makes it a little more tolerable to try to take the fire hose of information that you're trying to share as a company or as a team. Everybody wants to train their employees, but that word managing comes from Mangiano. It's like an Italian word, and it was used in the conversation of train a horse. So nobody wants to be managed, right? They all want to be led. And like, if you go to the word led, it's the word laden, which is like Old English, and it means to be a guide. Everybody wants to be guided. They want to be led through a training event or a work conversation. So I would say to anybody who's in corporate America, go take an art class, go take a music class, go take an acting class or an improv class, because I didn't know it, but everything I was doing from the creative side in the arts was preparing me for some part or function within corporate facilitation and education, which is just training adults. So when I go into a room, I use all of my art skills to create engaging flip charts that are clear and you can read them, but also have artistic feel. I do handwritten thank you cards for every single group that's got a personalized icon or something, their favorite sports team, or, I would draw the cow that's over your shoulder because I'm sure it's got some psychological background to it. That's all the art training that I had. From a performance standpoint, being an actor, now I have an understanding of how that translates to body language, eye contact, tone, emphasis, pace, when trying to be more empathetic to someone in the group of participants who's sharing a powerful moment of learning. But at the same time, I can change that pace and focus to be more more performer in a moment where I need to make a more engaging, fun moment, or I need to make something that's more distinct. So all of it is interconnected. I'm trying to, from a writing standpoint, right? If you're going to, try to write a story, I've developed content for brands like BMW and Mini and Rivian. And so my job then was, okay, how do I tell a compelling story in a workshop? I've got a 90-minute module. Well, I have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, like the great, storytellers of thousands of years ago. Good stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So a good workshop should have the same thing. And then as a director or producer of a film project, I'm like, all right, do I have all the necessary tools? Do I have all my materials? How do the seats look? How's the room temperature? How's the lighting? I find that it's all interconnected. And any good facilitator is great at improv. They can always do the mindset of yes and. They can hear a participant say not the right answer, but an answer. And they can go, yes, Bubba, I like what you've got there. And if you connect it to this topic, we're getting to the point of learning that we're trying to really teach everybody. So, as I said in the beginning, if you're in any sort of job, go take an improv class, an acting class, an art class, a movement class, a music class, like engage it. And I think there's I know there's a preponderance of research that shows when you stimulate creativity in human beings, you open their willingness or their propensity to accept new ideas. They can consider the possibility of doing something different. And if I'm going to teach people how to do things at our company or our team or in this workshop, I need them to be open to new ideas. So creativity can help with that.
Yeah, well, it opens you up to possibilities, right?
Right.
You know, and I don't think it's ever bad, no matter what age you are, to go be bad at something again, right? Like go try something and kind of bring yourself back down. And even more so for especially salespeople that rise to the top of their respective companies, or CEOs, or anyone of that nature, that you rise to a certain point in your life, and you are sometimes the smartest person in the room. That it's nice to kind of go and not be. And
Yeah.
that was great for me, kind of shifting careers. And not that I was the best musician or anything, but I was, I saw a need and I didn't care how bad I was going to be early on. I know I could talk, that wasn't a thing, but all of this production behind the scenes, like I didn't know anything about it. And there's been an evolution coming from, March of 2024, when we were audio only, working off a tiny little, a Zoom P4, which just has the microphone plugins in the back, which I was comfortable with as a performer and audio engineer. I was very comfortable with that. Now moving it into, where we're at now with the StreamYard studio, and where we're going with this national tour, and actually having, camera crews and producing that out. And also with not just the performance shows, which I have a lot of experience in, but also bringing these creator conferences out and doing a lot of what you do in the corporate, business world, bringing it to creators. I haven't been to a lot of business conferences, but the one that I was at was brutal to try and get through, right? Because it was very dry and it didn't have a lot of entertainment, factors to every single person, right? I mean, and it was like 8 hours long, and it was just like, holy cow, how do people sit through a lot of these? And I'm sure a lot of them are extremely boring, and people kind of tune out halfway through. I know I got a lot out of, like the initial speaker and maybe the person after them, but after that, my brain's turned off, right? Well, I think there's only so much that you can really absorb in that time anyway. And that's why the way I'm trying to facilitate these creator conferences is a little bit of edutainment, right? A little bit of education in there, but networking. And that's really what it's about, is getting creatives in the same room with one another, being able to interview them on short podcast bits while everybody's kind of milling around, and sitting them down. So everybody's going to get a little promotion. Everybody has an opportunity. If you buy the tickets or submit, the way I have it is that you submit to be on the TV show and you get free tickets to the conference. And just because I don't see that the value for them yet is in like paying to be in the conference with the freebie of being maybe featured on the TV show. But it's the same thing. It's just like submit, pay the fee to come hang out with us. Give us a day. We're going to get you a little bit of education on some things that you should know, and not going into the weeds, right? Like, you have ChatGPT, you have all these resources on the internet now. You can go find out, but sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And you need just a top view. And we have some really, creative and experienced people that are joining us in all these different markets, and then not doing it just once, but we're going to take it on the road and do it 10 times in 10 different cities, and, touch on all these markets. And really, to me, that's the future of what I'm doing, is not just the getting out and performing and doing those things, but educating these creators so that we can build careers for everyone, not just ourselves.
I'll give you 2 or 3 things that are echoing what you just said. There's a thing called The Last Lecture. It's a book or a video that a guy made. He knew he was dying, and he wanted to leave this for his kids. But one of the quotes in there that's always stuck with me is, "Start small, but start." Right? Get the and what I found as a creative person is, once you start a ball rolling, you will be shocked. And this is for anybody who's trying to create. You will be shocked how many people will want to get on that ball. They'll come out of nowhere. Like, if you're an artist and you're a singer and you want to write an album and do an album, you will be shocked. All of a sudden, somebody will come out and be like, "Well, I play bass." Well, somebody else will come out, "Well, I'm an audio engineer. I'd love to help." And then somebody's like, "I've got a studio. Come on," and they'll help you, because they're, that old concept of many people lead lives of quiet desperation. And I don't put that on them like they're weak or anything. I think humanity is hard. I think life is hard. But when they see someone like Bubba start that mission, everybody wants to get on board. And all of a sudden they feel inspired to keep going and doing things. So people will come out of the woodwork and they will help you kind of keep building this thing. But when I think of you, I think of something I got from a family therapist friend of mine, a guy named Stephen Parker, who helps families, and he's just awesome here in Chicago. But I was talking with him one time about my fear, my imposter syndrome, about being creative and trying to start things. And he gave me this quote. I think it's from Gautier, but it's probably not. But anybody can look it up. It's called "The Man in the Arena." And are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I think it's actually a Teddy Roosevelt quote.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
well, then,
I think it's a whole poem. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just this thing, like many people sit outside the arena and they critique and they point and they tell you where you're doing wrong. But it is the person, the man or woman in the arena whose face is marred by dust and their knuckles are scratched up and everything. Even if you fail, and failure is a part of success. It is not the opposite of success, is a part of success. But even if you do, at least you tried. And you weren't sitting outside the arena just pointing and living that life of quiet desperation. So I commend you for starting, because I think it's just going to keep building.
Well, and that's what it felt like, was that desperation when I was working in the factory. You know, for me, you know, my life had a dramatic turn from, you know, a lot of addiction problems in my 20s, and, you know, eventually landed me in prison for a couple of years, and being in that prison and finally like ending the chaos. My life was so chaotic for so long and I didn't have any direction. I finally like sat down, learned how to weld while I was there, took all the classes, was very committed to like, I'm changing my life. You know, I have 3 kids now. I'm not, you know, this isn't a life that's for them anyway. You know, stuff. I went to prison for marijuana. So now it's free legal and getting decriminalized. It seems crazy, but I'm very grateful, because it kind of showed me that like, I'm not broken. Right. Just because I want to chase creative endeavors doesn't make me kind of like less a part of society. It's just a lot harder. Right. Like, it was very easy for me getting out of the prison cell, going to, you know, a job, working that, but it was also freaking killing me. Right. Yeah. Like, I wasn't able to express myself creatively. Yeah, I could go and play a little bit of music on the weekends, but just like living that life over and over again, looking at guys that were twice my age, you know, like, oh, only 5 more years to retirement, bodies completely broken, missing fingers, you know, working manufacturing jobs, where I was just like, I can't see myself in this position. Like, I can't see myself here in 5 years, much less 20, you know. And the upward mobility of those places is all in not how smart you are, but how long you've been here with the company. And it's like, well, I'm already 20 years behind some of these people, you know?
And there's a lot of companies now that don't reward those 20 years. That
right.
Loyalty's gone.
Right. And I've seen a lot of that too, right? Where it was just like, this isn't for me. Yes, I'm more than capable of doing this, but you know, I've always had the feeling that I was here for something greater. And it just took, I had to do it. I thought I was quitting my job in early 2024, Frank, to be a rock star. I had a bunch of gigs booked and I was playing some big amphitheaters, and I thought that was it. Right. You know, like we're out on the road, and it didn't take long of being out there to be like, oh, I don't want this life either. Right. Like, being away from the family all the time. Like, if I want to do this, then it's, you know, 5-6 nights a week, and, you know, singing and performing. And while I love that part, it was almost, you know, it was something else inside of it that I loved. It was the, you know, a little bit of the traveling, but when you don't drink, it's hard to like want to be a part of the party culture anymore. Like, it worked very well in my 20s. And in the meantime, podcasting, it kind of had started to become more of what I was doing. Everywhere I went, I was bringing my microphones with me. I was recording conversations with other artists, and it's like, oh, this is great. And I just had a great interview with a man named Brandon Day, and Brandon is a neural coach. And we talked a lot about flow state, and, you know, how he was an athlete, you know, Division II, I believe, you know, national champion, cover of Sports Illustrated, you know, for a game they played. And it was speaking with him about the similarities between like being out on the field at a high level And being a creative, being a musician up on the stage, he's a guitar player and picked up, performing live as well. And he's like, we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for that flow and in there. And during our conversation, I'm realizing like, oh, that's why I'm in love with podcasting, right? That's why I'm in love with these conversations, because it's all flow state. I'll do 3 interviews today, Frank, right? I'll do 5 meetings tomorrow and staying live. And I got another live show tonight and I'm on air 30 hours a week. And then with this tour, we're keeping the cameras on the tour bus, backstage, at the conference, so I can just be in it, right? And the more I'm in it, the better off I am. And not only, being on camera, but I'm also kind of in that flow behind the camera with the, more, I guess would be like the production side, not necessarily physically, but the setting up of even the website development and all these things. Like it's all part of that and building. And it combines those 2 halves of my brain, that very meticulous and analytical side with the creative side, and being able to bring them together. And that's why I'm really excited about the future of what we're doing and what we're building, more so than even having won the Content Creator of the Year award. And in some ways, like that was the starting gun. That wasn't the finish line. That was somebody finally giving me a little bit of authority in this space to say, hey, go see what this does for you. And hi, I'm Bubba Startz. I got an award-winning podcast, and to watch the doors that have opened to us from that has been incredible. I've covered PGA Tour events. I got to interview Rondé Barber, Cernic Faldo, and Chris Carter, right, at a presser, and it was just like, oh, this thing is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So it's been a really cool convergence of seeing now where it all goes. And yeah, to talk with someone like you that's kind of been in similar veins, right? Where you've been in the creative side, but you've also been on stage, facilitating with business and corporate types. And we're trying to kind of teach the creative world a little bit of how to act a little more corporate, right? And so they can actually build themselves into a business and to grow for themselves and to build what I think, as a younger man, I was chasing maybe a record deal. I wasn't chasing it that hard because I was kind of like, oh, I can play guitar at parties and, get the girl or whatever, have a good time. But now it's so easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's much easier now for creatives to build themselves a business than it ever has been before, and to build a career out of that.
Agreed.
So you got a book coming out soon. What's the book about, Frank?
It's called The Lost Art of Giving a Shit. So it's apropos to all the things you were just talking about, that you recognize that you do care about what you're doing and you want to do something different. But it is the culmination of sort of the last 25 years of my facilitation life. It's me gleaming any of those things that I gathered in there and trying to realize that it does matter to give a shit about what you do. And I know the word shit can be off-putting to some people, but there's this thing on the very first page called The Big Idea in 3 parts. Number 1, according to Gallup, in 2024, there was $7.8 trillion in lost productivity due to disengaged employees. Part 2, some of you who read that don't give a shit. And part 3, some of you are more upset that I said the word shit than the first thing I said. And so it's like we have this global epidemic of disengagement. And, one of the stories in the book is about shopping carts. I can tell a lot about a person by how they interact with the shopping cart. And it's just wild. Like if you don't care enough to do the smallest things, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So the book is broken up into 5 chapters. Either you do or you don't give a shit. Like figure out, do you care or do you not care? Part number 2, if you don't give a shit, you probably need to figure out why. Because caring about what you do shows that you're engaged. It has financial and holistic and health and spiritual benefits all the way around. Part number 3 is why to give a shit. Like it shows an overwhelming propensity of data and research that talks about like caring about what you do as an employee reflects in all these different ways and how it can pay off tenfold. And number 4 is how to give a shit with the Give a Shit kit, right? And it's this thing called power. It's the power of caring about what you do. So it's preface everything, open it up, wonder why, engage your tools, and recap it all. And it's about, at the heart of this whole thing is how to become a better conversationalist with another human being. the power of human connection. So the book is for anybody who is an employee who serves any customer, or a leader who serves those employees. And I really think at the heart of it, you can walk into a business, or you can walk into a concert, you can walk into a bar and somebody's performing, or there's creative doing something. You can tell the employee or the performer who actually gives a shit about what they're doing. And it's noticeable, and it's like a cologne that you can smell, or a perfume. And it makes, in my opinion, all the difference of whether or not you're going to be loyal to that performer, or that artist, or that brand, or that company, or that business. And that's, I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to write another book, but it was on my heart and on my soul that I had to stick my flag in the ground and go, this stuff matters. It's not just about the spreadsheets and the quarterly reports. You have to care about what you're doing. There's a bunch of books back behind me. One of them is Simon Sinek's, New York Times best-selling book globally called Start With Why. And it's finding out the why you do what you do every single day. Very powerful book. But I feel like I can't even help you figure out your why until you will admit that either you do or you don't give a shit about the work you're doing. And if you don't, that's okay. Let's be honest with each other. Like, just tell me, I don't give a shit about this. I don't want to do this. Cool. Great. Why don't you? Is it the job, or is that you just don't care about whatever you're doing? And I've often found in doing this for, 25 some odd years, that most of the time when people don't care anything about what they're doing or their job or anything, there's previous trauma, there's unresolved relationships, there's something deep inside that is blocking them from actually caring about the world that they live in and the work they do every day. So that's the book. Comes out this summer.
Yeah, I can't wait. And we're definitely going to have you back on to deep dive the book when it does come out. I can't wait to grab a copy this summer and take it on I'll take it to the pool with me. I'm taking the summer off. Last year, I spent a lot of time on the road, and that's when everybody's home. My wife works at the school. My kids, are in school all year. So trying more to do my traveling in the winter months, heading south from South Dakota and get somewhere warm. And, now with everything that we've built here, I can circle. It was NAMM last weekend out in, Anaheim or wherever it is, Southern California.
Yeah.
Orlando had the big PGA conference. And it's like, well, I kind of have PGA credentials now that I've used. I might as well try to use this as an in. And I'm working on NFL credentials, hopefully for next season. And, it's kind of the old field of dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. And you kind of alluded to that earlier. It's like, if you get something moving, the people who do give a shit will find you, right? It's like a cologne, right? Like a fine perfume that people are attracted to. And for me, I had to, not giving a shit was what took me away from the factories I was working in, where I was just like, I can't do this. Like, you people don't care about what you're doing, then I'm definitely not caring. I don't care about money enough to just stay somewhere and be miserable to do it. And so I'm glad that I found mine, and I found something that I can remain passionate about. And, podcasting is great because I get to dip into all the things, right? I know you're a huge sports guy as well. We started the Scene Project Sports Network for that exact reason. Yeah, I care about music and I love all these things, but I like sports too. And I want to have an opportunity to talk about my opinions on things. And there's just nothing stopping you. And that's why we really encourage, not just our creators, but really anybody. Like, if you have thoughts in your head that you think are a little bit different, or are a little bit different, you should start a podcast and talk about them, right? And it's so easy to do these days, to just do it. And so far we've started, 5 or 6 of our friends on their journey and helping to facilitate that and to keep them going. For me, it was my therapy, our Get Better Together project, and talking with my friend about our, traumatic upbringings and different things out of our world, and sharing our shit with one another was like, oh, I finally got to tell that story, and not just tell it because I was having to tell it over and over again to everyone. I got it out. I got it on tape. I don't have to tell that story anymore, right? Like, go listen to episode 3 of the Get Better Together if you want to hear that story, because I'm not telling it anymore. And in some ways, a book, my book, Building Your Scene, that I put out last year, in the same vein, where it was like, look, this is out. I don't have to tell you over and over again what to do. Like, it's in the book. It's a free download on the website. Like, go read that. If I write another one that, you know, people are clamoring for, you know, maybe we'll publish it into, you know, covers, but nobody's reading real books, right? Like, we're part of a small group of people. You know, most people are either getting it on a Kindle or just read it on your phone, right? Download the PDF. If you care, if you give a shit to read it, you will. And if not, that's okay too. I don't really mind.
Frank, how many
Frank,
subscribers did you say you had on Spotify?
I think 19 monthly listeners right now on our on my music page. The podcast does a little bit better. We're about to cross 10,000 downloads in our lifetime, so that's exciting. I think about around 1,500 or so a month now that we're kind of clipping up to. So
I know we're
people are
wrapping up,
listening,
but just to the people that are there, like you care, and if you're hearing this, right, take the inspiration of what Bubba's doing and go make something, go create something. It's going to be awesome.
Indeed. Well, Frank, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you still have to work today. So I appreciate you jumping on with us. Go ahead, plug anywhere people can find your stuff. I know we'll be looking up on YouTube those old music videos trying to spot you.
Yeah, please don't. My website is ftzinc.com. So it's me incorporated. FTZ, Foxtrot Tango Zebra, INC, Indigo November Charlie.com. And but LinkedIn is where a lot of my content lives, so you can just find me. There's only one Frank Ziede on LinkedIn, and it's Ziede, and that's me.
Awesome. Yeah, there's only one Bubba Startz too. It makes it easy to stand out, right?
Right.
Frank Ziede, thank you so much for being part of the scene, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everybody for listening.